James Schramko here. Welcome back to my podcast. And for the first time in quite some time, I have a guest on my episode. I have brought along my special friend, Gert Mellak from SEOleverage.com. In this episode 1108, we're talking about why your brand's biggest SEO battle is happening outside of Google. Hello, Gert.
Hey, James. So good to be back.
It is good to be back. It's nice to have familiar things. As you know, we have on this show, we have repeat guests because over time, our audience get to build layers and layers of skills. And you've been helping us out on this journey in the beginning, especially relating to SEO. But it turns out things are changing. The landscape is changing. And in this episode 1108, we're talking about why your brand's biggest SEO battle is happening outside of Google. That sounds weird because SEO kind of stands for search engine optimization. But what we're experiencing at the moment is a multi-platform marketing war. And so I want to know, it's 2025 at the time of recording this. What is going on out there, Gert?
Actually, there is so much going on these days. We hardly can keep up. Every day we have to readjust what we think is our SOP that makes sense. And we just adjusted this again. And this is actually the fun part of it these days. Everybody's probably aware there's so many platforms out there right now with AI as well. It used to be social media. It used to be a good idea to pick one channel, really double down on it. And this was like it. And you made your business, you based your business on it. For many, many people, this was Google and has been Google. And there are still people approaching me where they say, hey, we only want to rank on Google. We don't need any other marketing. But actually, my response to this has changed quite a bit. Where I see right now, there was just a study coming out from Ahrefs that almost half of searches on Google are branded searches. What does this mean? It means that half of people going to Google already know which brand they're interested in. So they might not only type in SEO, they might already type in SEO leverage consulting, for example.
So how does that happen? Like if someone's not like, okay, so obviously the other half of searches are search engine optimization service for e-commerce site, right? And then maybe you'll rank for that. Mm-hmm. So the other half is branded, but how do they already know your brand?
This is the interesting part. They know it from elsewhere, from other channels. So this used to be social media only, but now we have a lot of new players in there. All the generative AI tools that are being used more and more for search. Whether this is a good idea already or not is another topic. But a lot of people just open up ChatGPT like they would open up Google before. The younger generation searches on TikTok. People search on Instagram or YouTube.
Well, they used to in America.
Amazon directly.
They didn't for a day or so.
Absolutely, exactly. So people, we just need to expect people are going to discover your brand from elsewhere as well. And if you're not really doing the right thing strategically on other platforms, you're pretty much missing out right off the bat of half of the potential Google searches that could actually find you.
Now, I'm playing this from two angles, as you know, because you've been helping with my two brands. And one brand is the Surf brand. And I notice when I'm searching for things in GPT to research a YouTube video script, often it's bringing up my own content and citing my website, which I screenshotted and sent to you, and I thought, isn't this interesting? And then the other brand, and I hope I'm not overstepping the mark when I say my own name is a brand name, because as you know, I sort of scrapped my previous brand names for my memberships and my higher level platform. And I just thought, you know what, I'll just be James Schramko, because there's only one, well, there's actually a couple, but I'm the main one. And then there's I will mentor people. So there's like my brand is me and I'm a mentor. And I also have the Connect platform. Is it overstepping to think of your personal name as a brand?
Absolutely not. It is definitely a brand, right? And it is important if somebody hears from you. For example, as I know this from my personal experience, a lot of people work with me because they have heard me on a podcast, they have seen my social media, they have heard about me personally. I get referred rather as a person than as my agency, SEO Leverage, or Solidcom we had here in Spain as well. So it's more a personal thing, personal advisor role I'm being referred as to. So it's definitely a brand. And just think of your business, whatever people might be typing in before they want to work with you is your brand. So this can be your brand name, this can be your company name, this can be your name or your executive staff name.
I'm thinking about, like, even with social media, a lot of them are becoming personal platforms with the blue tick. For example, if someone posted on Facebook, hey, does anyone know a good SEO company for e-commerce?
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually going to type, hey, get in touch with Gert, and I'm going to tag
Mm-hmm.
you, the person.
There you go.
I might put your website, but I also am conscious that now it starts to look a bit promotional, that the URL might unfurl and then the person who posted it might tick that little cross to make it go away or even delete it. They might think it's too promotional. But it's like the personal referral seems like a really solid thing in this era. And I view it a little bit differently than I used to before. But if I'm not selling off my mentorship to someone else, which I'm unlikely to do, I might as well own it. And the other thing I noticed is a lot of people, even when people come to you, you would give me feedback. Like people said to me that they heard about me on Schramko's podcast.
Yeah,
and they didn't even
100%.
use the name of my business at the time. So I thought, well, isn't that interesting if the customers think of it as the person? And also, let's face it, with the surname like Schramko, it's pretty easy to own that because it's not Smith, right,
Mm-hmm.
or Brown.
Exactly. And I remember even when you still had your old brand, we checked out your search queries and a lot of people would type in Schramko email marketing, Schramko membership sites, Schramko revenue share. So this was the type of branded searches.
Schramko wife, Schramko income.
That was.
It's pretty crazy what people search for.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so brands making up half the SEO searches, but if we look at a business, like take some of the clients you've got,
mm-hmm.
How much of their traffic's coming from Google? That's the other query. So like you've just told me that half the stuff coming to Google is a branded search, but how much of the traffic coming to the website is from Google? Is that changing?
It definitely varies depending on the different markets. It varies whether this is a B2B brand or a B2C. We work in both fields. Where B2B very often is relying more on Google and desktop searches, and then we see a lot of social channels and mobile traffic on B2C brands, for example. So this is definitely changing. We also see that even if it's still slow, still very low numbers, the traffic from ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity is on the rise and grows exponentially. And this means that in a few months, we are going to see a considerable part of the traffic of a website actually coming from these tools. As long as the website does a few things right, you really need to put in place in order to actually pop up in those tools.
Now, I had an interesting conversation with a client of mine last week. His business has just hit £1 million per year. It's tripled in the last 12 months that I've been working with him. And one of the things we did was I said, please install some kind of tracking on your traffic. So we got a paid tool to track the traffic sources because he was spending ads, but kind of stopping spending at a certain point because he didn't really know if it converted. I said, we have to know. We have to know where they're going and what's converting. And he also involved an element of a free trial. And I'm like, should we be giving away a lot more? Should we be spending 10 times more on ads? How do we know? And what he found was a lot of people who clicked on his ad had also done a Google search on him. They'd click on the ad, but didn't buy then, and then do a Google search and then come to the website and buy. So what that tells me is it's probably not the right time to dismiss Google as part of the armory.
It's definitely, I think, very important to see the customer journey isn't a linear process. It doesn't happen in 30 seconds like everybody wishes.
It wasn't easy to find out in 30 seconds either. We had to let data run for a while and it was a bit complicated to set up.
Right, but people expect it. I was talking to a client yesterday, for example, and he was like, yeah, I ran this campaign. They went to the landing page, but so many people went to the landing page, but only 30 signed up over this month, for example. But then he said, we did notice actually a few weeks later, we got a lot of more calls and inquiries and people even showing up here in the physical store, etc. So we just need to understand the customer journey is complex. It is going to hit a lot of different touch points. And it used to be like 7 touch points years ago that you needed to hit. Now it's probably 20 or 50. I don't know the latest numbers, but it definitely is very, very complex.
I also kind of discovered this at the beginning of the year. I sent out an email campaign. And credit to my team because they're the ones that said, hey, you said to remind you in January to send out an email to remind people to join Mentor. I said, oh, yeah, okay. I forgot about that. And they wrote the email, which was nice. And I hit send, and then I had about 14 people apply for mentorship. And the variation on where they got onto that email list and how much they knew me, and it was unbelievable. Some of them I've been conversing with for over 14 years. We were in Facebook groups together. We were in forums together. Some of them I've met in person at real life events. I've spoken on stage. Other ones were previous members of my previous iteration of the membership. Unbelievable. And then a couple of absolutely brand new who've just come from a book or a podcast or a search. I think what we're saying here, it's probably good to have multiple approaches. And that's what we were alluding to at the beginning of this show, is the multi-platform aspect. What platforms are we supposed to be considering, and is it different for different types of clients?
It's an excellent question. I actually want to go a little bit back in history here when it's actually history when ChatGPT came out these days. It looked like a long time ago, but when ChatGPT came out, I started doing some testing and started publishing a few thoughts on LinkedIn. And the first thought was, hey, actually it starts to matter what's out there about your brand, because if ChatGPT becomes a search engine, people are going to find really weird stuff. And I published about an example where Nike wasn't a good shoe brand and things like those, where it was kind of weird. And I researched this. I think we talked about this in another show.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
The thing was that it was just clear that whatever is out there about the brand suddenly is going to be part of how AI thinks about the brand. And this was when we started lining up what today is PlatformLeverage, where we essentially help brands to make sure that whatever is out there on the brand is first of all in line with where they want their image to be. So it's a reputational aspect, but also at the same time, make sure that we engage with their target audience on those platforms. So back to your question, this is different for each brand. So this is why the first step, whenever somebody comes to us and wants to know more about PlatformLeverage, we usually suggest to first do an audience platform research, where we research who is your audience based on your experience, based on our research, which platforms are they using in which order, and then draft a platform strategy where we go through the top platforms and really say, okay, on this platform, we want to engage twice a week. On this platform is less important. Once a month is probably enough. On this platform, we just monitor if your brand name pops up or your competitors, and then we decide what we do about it. So we essentially assess where the audience is, make a plan, how can we best get in front of them. This is very often a direct logging into the platform and participating in conversations or launching specific topics on a regular basis. And then we are seeing a lot of different results, partly directly from this engagement where people say, okay, they were so helpful, I'm going to really check them out. But also partly through other channels, through AI suddenly picking this up because they picked up an answer you gave on a Reddit thread.
So where does the AI tool pick up stuff from? Because is this going to look like a similar map? Are we going to be in the places that feed the tools if the tools are becoming increasingly more important?
We need to modify the input, right? I can't go to ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT, hey, whenever somebody asks about me, tell them I'm a good SEO, right? Unfortunately, we can't. It's input equals
couldn't you
output.
have a bot farm and have 20 GPTs ticking the box saying train the whole model and then have them feeding stuff in like people used to do to train Google on how to deliver a result in their favor?
It's not going to work this easily. I'm sure there are going to be attempts to manipulate what comes out, especially in the early days of AI, where it might be just having a certain answer on your website might a few months later give you some more visibility. So we're testing a lot of different hacks here. But what I would just say is, first of all, what would be the approach that never is going to change? And what's never going to change is get in front of the right people and be helpful as a brand. So if you go, we see right now, for example,
you could say that about YouTube as well.
Exactly, absolutely. But what we see right now, for example, even in Google, and this would be the half that's not branded searches, people, you search for a particular tool. I tried this yesterday, and there was a Reddit answer, reddit.com answer showing up right now that is from 3 years ago. There was one tool recommended. The amount of people that afterwards said, thanks for the recommendation, I signed up, is unreal. And this is just people trusting people. And Reddit, the good thing about Reddit, right now, for example, is that they partnered with Google. They get a lot of visibility in exchange probably for selling their data. But this is a platform that has the visibility right now, and it's going to be really, really hard to outrank them as a page, but you can participate. You can show up on threads actually where the target audience is going to land. So we have essentially the two layers. You still need the website, you still need your SEO perfectly aligned because the tools are going to be fed predominantly from your website when they want to know about your brand and products. But then on a second layer, you want to show up on the platforms that are already there, where the audience is already going to land. This can be Facebook groups, this can be a medium.com article, this can be a YouTube comments section with 500 comments where you should be participating and replying to others, for example. But this is really where the strategy comes in. And this is very often where business owners then say, hey, I'm overwhelmed with one channel. How could I possibly now stay on top of 5 or 10 channels at once?
And how much does it matter where entities are sort of joined to each other? I saw in the news during the week that Perplexity was looking to try and buy TikTok, for example. And now Google is also got YouTube and is also Gemini. And how does that compare with like Microsoft with ChatGPT and all the other, and then there's other independents like Claude. And I think Perplexity was funded by Bezos. So that's kind of like the quasi Amazon arm.
I think it's definitely the case where a few companies just own the market. So we see, for example, ChatGPT relying on Bing. This is why Bing suddenly is gaining market share as well, and is back in the discussion. We didn't care about Bing a few years ago in SEO, honestly, unless it was maybe the United States and an older demographic. But right now, it's really back because we want to know where are we in ranking Bing, because it correlates to how often you get mentioned in ChatGPT for specific search queries. So we definitely see a few companies that will rule the market, I guess, through different tools and different shares they have on the different tools. But for us, I think it's more a matter of really focusing on the end client. Where are they? I don't care if all those platforms are owned by the same company, but I do know my clients are on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Instagram. So I need to be there engaging with them.
When you say brands, obviously strong brands have an advantage. What would make a strong brand in the eyes of these platforms to want them to promote them?
I think it's less looking at the promotion. Promotion is definitely one aspect. We are more talking about tying the brand to the topics and challenges that people are going to be interested in. So if I, as an SEO, have been creating comments over many, many years on SEO topics, digital marketing topics, programming back in the days. So my personal brand is strongly tied to this, to a certain terminology, to certain topics, to certain challenges. So the likelihood of my brand showing up in this context is higher than somebody who has hardly been engaging. So one aspect is definitely the frequency, but also the relevance, and if it's consistent over time. If you comment today on a cooking recipe and tomorrow on the sports results, it's going to be really hard for platforms to figure out what you actually stand for.
What percentage of search was branded, a few years back? Was it changed significantly?
It definitely changed, but it also depended on the strength of the brand. So if I launch a business today, nobody's going to search for my brand. If I launch a business and have thousands spent on Facebook ads in my area, the chances of getting more branded searches are really, really higher. So it depends a lot on which channels you already are. We see a strong correlation between running ads and a few weeks later starting to see the branded searches pick up because you're just top of mind. You stay top of mind. Can depend on how many emails you send out. We see e-commerce sites whenever they send out emails, we see a lot of more branded searches. For example, people on the one end might not remember the domain and just type in the name itself. But where the power comes in is in combined searches where there's a brand and some detail. We're working with an international e-commerce site right now, a probably 9-10 figure company, where they essentially now double down on making sure they outrank their distributors. They used to sell over 30 years through distributors. Now they want to sell directly. And so we're essentially competing for branded searches only on their product pages and try to get from number 3 to number 1, for example, in rankings, just because this is going to be a huge difference in revenue for them.
So if you were a company like Nike and you wanted everyone to go and buy at Nike.com, instead of from Foot Locker, or Athlete's Foot or Dick's Sports Store or whatever, then you just say, right, we're just going all in on brand. We're going to be like Coca-Cola or Apple. We just want to own it.
You definitely would own it and really also try to see what is Google ranking for Google specifically. And can you on Nike.com actually produce a similar result? If Google is ranking a product list, even though you're Nike, you might not rank with your brand page.
So are you saying we should be putting more emphasis on brand, or are you saying don't worry about anything but brand?
I think brand is definitely more important because it's going to be one of the ways how generative AI is going to differentiate who is important and who is not.
Right.
And focusing on brand for me has two aspects. One is definitely paid ads, which I would definitely recommend to run a certain amount of paid ads for your brand, just for brand awareness and stay top of mind and make sure your brand is actually being searched for. On the other hand, it's really connecting your brand across different platforms and on your website to all the challenges, problems, topics that make sense for your audience, but don't go too far.
So, quick recap. Brand is important. It's becoming more important because it's going to be platform-wide, not just Google anymore. And step one is to just see where your clients are actually engaging and who's already ranking, where your brand's ranking and where your customers are, and see if they overlap, and then sort of decide to improve that and then track and monitor the progress towards it. Is that sort of roughly the process?
Absolutely.
What else are you doing with your clients? They say, Gert, we want to get more sales. You say, great, let's have a look where your customers are. Let's have a look how strong your brand is. Oh, it looks like your brand isn't that strong. Let's make your brand stronger. Let's put you on those platforms where the clients are. Let's start tracking them. What do you actually do?
We definitely have a first conversation, see if how we approach this makes sense for the brand. If it does, we definitely research the platforms and then come up with a platform strategy. And this is what actually is decisive for whatever happens afterwards. Platform strategy for us means we get together here as a team and go platform by platform that we have researched is relevant for this client and figure out how can we best get in front of the target owners on this particular platform. And I'll give you a couple of examples. We were just analyzing a company in the car industry, and we found a few Facebook groups in the tuning sector, car tuning, and we found, hey, this is exactly the audience they usually get to. So we might even show them some screenshots. Does this sound like your client, etc.? They say, yeah, absolutely. So now we have a bunch of Facebook groups we're going to engage on a regular basis. In this case, it's even going to be us with a trained AI actually going in, because we're obviously not mechanics. We are having a little bit of a hard time, but we got from the client and work with the client on a set of probably 200 most important questions and the proper answers to them, train an AI for this. And then we are able to actually produce decent answers. Might not go deep enough, but they're decent enough for them to actually check out who is this brand that actually answers and to tie their brand together with the main topics. So we essentially line up a process brand by platform, and then see how can we best get in front of this. This can be ads, for example. We see sometimes, for me, for example, search engine land is one of the most important platforms. A lot of my clients read articles on search engine lands. We're a contributor there as well. So for me, getting in front of an audience that reads search engine land has a lot of power, drives a lot of authority. So I can now target with ads people that are interested in search engine land and try to get in front of them with ads maybe. It's just really getting in front of them through all kinds of channels with the right messaging, and then obviously testing if it makes sense based on the KPIs.
So basically you're leveraging different platforms, and you're also leveraging the paid and organic aspects depending on what the client needs.
Absolutely. What makes the most sense? There are platforms where it's just really, really hard to find. We know from the research people are there, but we don't know exactly how we can get in front of them. Then there are still ways to target them through ads. Ideally, we always try to have a direct conversations, direct engagement first as the first level, but then see how can we actually, in addition, leverage this audience research as well in order to get in front of them more often.
And are you now doing this under PlatformLeverage.com?
Exactly. PlatformLeverage is like where the entire program and the 3 steps are essentially documented. We still have SEO leverage. SEO isn't going anywhere. And always whenever we work with somebody on PlatformLeverage, we always make sure their SEO first is in line, because every platform is going to check out their website, is going to check out, does this actually add up? Does this make sense? Is this the same thing? So we definitely want to always make sure that the site is in order and that SEO ranking. So when somebody then goes and searches for this brand, when they see a direct engagement, we definitely need to also look at what comes up in Google for this brand.
What is the sort of balance between strategic advice versus service provision? Do you integrate with existing teams and suppliers? Like, say you identify with a client, look, you probably benefit from running ads. Do they have people in-house? Do you recommend a supplier, or do you provide it yourself?
All of them. So if they have somebody in-house, we might guide them and we might send them a list of keywords and say, test these keywords or test this targeting. And they might then target this audience and give us feedback. We really, whenever they are running other channels, we try to get information exchange going, and we provide what we have found out. They provide what they have found out. This usually works really well and everybody's happy. If it's Google related, Google ads, we have a lot of experience in Google ads, so we might run them ourselves. It's something we promote, but if it's an existing client, we run them ourselves or offer to. And then we also have good contacts that can run all kinds of paid ads essentially for them.
What kind of business size does it start making sense to be getting help from someone like you versus trying to just cover the bases?
I think everything that's below mid-six figures can probably do this in-house, maybe get like a one-off audience platform research. So you have the priorities and say, okay, let's put our effort into YouTube. We just did an audience platform research for a very small company. I was like, yeah, just follow the instructions. I gave them a few tips on the
So it's like buying a blueprint and then you go and build the house.
Exactly. And I gave them like an idea, like, look, on this platform 5 times a month, on this platform once a month, on this platform, just take it one here and there, but make it a habit. And then they might come back in a few months when they are ready and say, okay, now we get some help or check what we're doing. Is this correct? But it doesn't make sense to have an ongoing engagement for everybody. Most of our clients probably start in the mid-six figure range.
And what type of businesses are they?
We work with a lot of e-commerce sites. E-commerce SaaS is very, very successful with direct engagement because there's just a lot of research going. So before I buy from a store that's not Amazon, I'm going to type their brand name into Google and see what comes up of them. Is this a scam? Do they deliver? Do they have shipping issues? All these kinds of things. So for e-commerce, and also Shopify sites very often run a lot of paid ads as well. And the more paid ads you run, the more branded searches you get. So you really want to make sure that the SEO side of things is in order, but also that platforms, if somebody goes to ChatGPT and asks about your store, if there have been any issues with your site, you really want to make sure that ChatGPT has the right info from the different platforms. And for SaaS, we see actually the same thing happening. People do a lot of research before they commit to $100,000, $500,000 payment per month on a SaaS product. So they go through a lot of forums, a lot of groups, they ask around, they try to find if anybody had experience. Is this slow? Does this have outages? Do they have actually delivered? How does the customer service work, etc.? All these decisions. And this is also where even for B2B, this cross-platform engagement is actually really working well.
I think it's important. I've purchased a few things from Facebook ads recently where I made my decision by reading a lot of the comments. I try and identify if they're like bots, fake profiles or too favorable. And I see how the company responds to the comments too, both good and bad. And then I'd also go and look at the actual site and check the reviews, because obviously you want to trust that it's legit, or that it's not price gouging, that it's not selling something you could buy from the official supplier at half the price.
Mm-hmm.
And
absolutely, yeah.
All of them came through so far really well, like high quality natural sunscreen, high quality grain-free paleo bread. And there was one other thing. I got a t-shirt, I think, something like that. And yeah, the trust factor is important, and I will use multiple reference points. So I think that it's really interesting to see what you're doing with e-commerce stuff, because those people are making sales right there. They're not sitting around waiting for Google. They've interrupted me on Facebook. And
exactly.
They've got that. But I imagine that's somehow contributing to their potential for showing up in AI searches and being cited as a source.
Definitely. Whatever they do in order to strengthen their brand on different platforms across the web definitely has a strong impact. Generative AI these days is probability based. So what's the likelihood of the next word being your brand in a certain context? So one of these things I just recommended to a client yesterday is to show up really where the competitors are showing up in a list. So there are lists of providers in this area. If you're never one of those, like you type in top CRM solutions and there's always going to be HubSpot, there's always going to be High Level and Salesforce and the likes. If you're consistently showing up in this list, the probability of you showing up in a CRM list in ChatGPT is just higher. So it's really a matter of a little bit of frequency, not only like the highest quality post on one Facebook group or one Reddit thread, but really also the frequency. How many lists are there about CRMs where yours is not part of it, and how many are there where yours is Salesforce? You're on all those lists, so the probability to rank you as well is just higher. So there are different strategies depending on who you work with. But like I say, yeah, e-commerce SaaS definitely. And then we also see a lot of success with consultants or coaches, because before you hire a coach, you obviously notice that there might be years and years you research, you follow this person, you really want to know what kind of results did other people get. Specifically, what's the negative about this person? Do I really want them? I'm kind of searching for I'm not going for this program before I actually decide. So this is where I think the strategy really, really kicks in.
Well, I had a guy I'm helping, he's got a product that helps off-road adventurers. And I said it'd be really good if you could get that in the hands of those YouTubers who have millions of subscribers who get like 500,000 views within a day of publishing a new video. You need to get it to them and have them put it in their show, because then it gets talked about, commented, populated and spread, and then people go searching for it. But also when you interrupt them, that's not the first time they're seeing it. Because the first time I saw his product, I never knew this type of product existed and I had no idea what it was from the ad. But I got introduced to this person through a mutual friend. And when I understood what it was, I'm like, hey, this is a great product, but I had no idea that it exists or what it actually does, even when I saw the ad. And he's like, oh, thank you. That's very useful information. And now I've helped him by rewriting an ad and connecting him to some good suppliers to help him tune up the site. But he thought that his site needs rebuilding because it's not converting. I said, it's not converting because your ads aren't great. Like, people coming from that ad are not ready to buy. Even if they click on the ad and look at it, it doesn't really explain enough to make me interested to buy it. Whereas I'm absolutely certain that I'm the person who can buy off an ad if it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely, yeah.
All right. If we cover all the bases, we get really good testimonials. Our brand gets raving reviews. Third-party review sites must be quite valuable too. I know this because when I was searching Perplexity for myself, it was telling me how I help clients, which I thought was quite interesting, and it was pulling from Trustpilot reviews.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they definitely have like certain trusted sources they go to, and Trustpilot definitely has a good reputation for having valid reviews and really tested it. Did they actually purchase, etc. And then really the consistency then pays off, right? So if there's consistently people talking about you in the context of revenue share, for example, and you help them with revenue share, or you help them with a funnel, or with launching their brand, or with whatever it is, this definitely pays off. It's like just educating a child, and you kind of just repeat the same thing all the time in order until it sticks, and the child accepts this as the reality. You could convince Google technically of anything, even things that are not true, if you're consistent enough.
Love it. So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, and I haven't prepared you with this, but we're at the beginning of 2025 at the moment, and observing what you are from the industry and the way things are moving. What are you telling your team in team trainings, and where you think things are going for your business over the next few months? I'm not even going to commit you to the whole year because I think that's too long. But what are you working on? What are you excited about?
Yeah, I think we are definitely going into a situation where we are going to have generative AI everywhere. I'm really waiting, and I'm kind of wondering why they hold back for it so long to have the Alexa and Google Assistants and Siri's respond like generative AI. The technology is there; they're just holding back for whatever reason. Maybe privacy.
Those things are archaic. Now, I mean, GPT just released their operators, so they can
exactly. So the next step now, and we already see Chrome plugins that actually control based on a prompt control the Chrome browser. So the next step is obviously doing tasks that we do manually automatically. So my team knows that at some point logging into SEO tools and fetching a report is not going to be something we're going to spend too much time on, and formatting it and highlighting something on a spreadsheet, etc. I think we are a few months away from this. This is not a year, because it's just going to be very easy to have a few shortcuts in your browser that perform a keyword research, export a competitor's data into a Google Docs, format it, and make it ready to submit. I think these kinds of things are going to be automated. It comes back. It's good that we have a set of probably 100 SOPs here that we can probably copy and paste into ChatGPT or the likes very quickly, and they just get the process and do this automatically. So we have been doing the groundwork for years. We were essentially 2 years before ChatGPT testing the first AI tools, and then it's not there yet, but we test it again next month, etc. So we are definitely on top of this, and the team knows that this is just part of our reality. And I believe strongly in the voice assistants. Voice search is going to come back. It was like supposed to be coming. It was just not ready yet. It was the technology of the voice recognition was much faster than the AI. So we had to kind of throttle down a little bit, but now when we can pair both, and it's just going to be normal that you ask your assistant for whatever kind of tasks, open up Google, check out Amazon, let me see this product or compare these two products on Amazon. This is going to be a normal conversation in the kitchen.
I've often said, when we get to the Minority Report, when we get to that phase, Tom Cruise is just going like on the wall. Like, I'll be powerful then, because that's going to free up all the friction I've got to doing things. At the moment, my Apple device in the kitchen, when I ask it to remind me what time my podcast with Gert is, it says, I can't do that from this device. You'll need to check your phone. I'm like, geez, it's very unhelpful. It's definitely not there yet.
Right now, it's still frustrating because you're used to a certain way of working on your screen. Right now, already leveraging all kinds of things. I was just testing Gemini within Google and searching for all emails that had a certain label on it, and build me a table and get me the information of the domains. And it was just the one line prompt, and I had my spreadsheet ready. So we are really used to this kind of speed. And now you get into your car, you talk to an Alexa assistant, you want to on Siri. There's just no way you can really do
Not
this.
even
But it's
close.
going to
I mean,
be
I'm having full-on conversations with ChatGPT with my phone. Just
Yeah.
me and GPT and my phone on the couch. We're just chatting our way through detailed analysis and reports and structures and frameworks. I took this mother load of data the other day, and I got it to clean it all up, look for overlap, streamline it, and then reformat it into a new framework structure that I asked it if it remembered it. It said, yes, I remember that. And I said, okay, apply that. What have we got? And then we went through, we ended up with this beautiful report. It was just lovely. And it was, we're not far from me being able to just sit here and chat to my computer, and it moves all the browsers around. That's what Operator does. So it'll be interesting. So you've told me what you're doing with the team and conversations you're having. What does that actually mean for the end customer?
For the end customer is that they get a lot more insights a lot faster.
Yeah.
They get a lot more efficiency. We are able to find essentially weak points on competitors that we wouldn't have found across thousands of pages. We can find them now within seconds with our trained AI tools. So essentially for the team, we still have a team of 17 people here with 5 full-time writers, and we have a content process that obviously involves AI at some point, but we definitely have our editing and our ideation process, etc. For the end customer also means they might get initially a lot of questions from us. We might be doing an interview with them. We might be relying on their customer service database in order to train an AI to really have like a virtual representative of them inside our agency that we can ask and for keyword lists, for example.
Clever. You import your client virtually into the agency so you can interact with them, and you're basically saving them having to figure all this stuff out.
I give you an example. We're working with a marketing consultant now as his SEO partner and PlatformLeverage partner. And what we asked him to do with his client was drive down with, he even did it in person. I thought it was a Zoom call. He did it in person. We helped him establish a 2 or 3 pages list of questions, open questions to get his client talking. And they spent like 3 hours talking, recorded it, transcribed everything. And he gave me the cleaned up transcription. And this is now essentially the input for the first probably 6 to 12 months of the campaign. because we don't need to bother the client about what's important, what competitors, what USPs, what I don't know what. They just were talking happily about their business they have been building over the years. And we can have essentially a chat with them, but we can also show them a list of keywords and say, which of these keywords do you think are more important in your industry? What kind of persona? We have a persona definition now where we know exactly this is a particular type of profile inside the company. So we know all this stuff. We would have had a questionnaire before as well, but we would have a lot of back and forth with the client. Can you look at this? What do you think? What would your client say about that, etc.? And now we have a text written and we just let the persona read it and give us feedback and improve it. So we have a virtual persona that essentially improves the copy of this text until the persona itself thinks it's good enough.
It's exactly what I've done with my partners and my mentees. I've created a little engine for each one of them where I can train it from diagnostic on through to all the communications. And now I'm able to rewrite their VSLs, to be able to do email communications, prepare quotes, give them action plans, everything. It's able to really enhance and augment. But what happens is I send it back, like I rewrite an email for someone, or I send back new headlines for their next thing or the hook intro. And they're like, what prompt did you use? I'm like, it's a little bit beyond just the prompt. But yeah.
Not that easy. Yeah, it's not that simple anymore.
Once you get it dialed for a few, you can share between them. And so it's really cool. I could say, hey, remember Gert? And it'll go, yeah. And I'll go, now can you take these topics and rewrite them as a YouTube style hook with hooks and open loops and grab attention with the call to action, and it'll apply it and then spit it out. It's like cool. And I can ask it, make me 10 more headlines and so forth. So over time, it just gets deeper and deeper.
It's definitely interesting because for us as an agency, then it enables us just to help a client much more.
Yep.
So like the last client who just signed up today, they were like, there's no way I have time to log into 20 platforms and engage with clients. But what they do have is a really, really good customer service database. So we're going to spend a month leveraging it to create an AI expert in their industry. And then it's my team that can log in and answer questions, and we report on the questions. They can correct once in a while. We feed this back into the AI to make it better, but they can rely on our answers being probably 95% there.
And I've noticed even tools like Help Scout are coming up with extremely accurate suggestions based on the previous questions for the account. And that's what I think you said this earlier. It's going to be absolutely everywhere. And that's why I think the big takeaway from today is, it's not just an SEO game anymore. It's a battle for the platforms, the multi-platform marketing war, and your brand is your moat. If people are looking for you to try and seek you out, be there. Make sure you get found. If you want to do it yourself, if you're still in the early phases, hopefully this episode's been a good stimulus. If you want the power and assistance of a super genius to help you out and his team and all the tools that come with it, and all you have to do is interface with them and they do the rest, get in touch with Gert. Where are we sending today? PlatformLeverage.com by the sound of it.
PlatformLeverage.com would be the best entry point right now because hardly anything we do is purely SEO in the traditional sense anymore.
And mention Schramko's podcast just to make us laugh. Yeah. Gert, thanks so much for sharing. I mean, every time we chat, the goalposts have moved a little bit, and I think that's why it's important to have an ongoing discussion. I hope you'll come back and share an update in a short time. Just tell us how things are going. Currently, we're at episode 1108. I'm sure I'll catch you on a future one.
Thank you so much, James. It's always a pleasure to chat.
This is James Schramko.